On today's show, the LA Clippers begin their 5-game road trip. And is there any hope for them to still salvage this season and be competitive? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locked in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 21 years, been covering the team on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for 6, and 4 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network, your team every day. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube to get us up to 8,000 subscribers before the end of 2025. And of course, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Clipper Nation, we're finally here. December, the final month of 2025, which for me has been a cursed year. Just like the Clipper franchise, they say is cursed, but it's actually not been a bad year for the Clippers as a franchise. First playoff series at Into a Dome, that was a great time. But right now it's looking bleak. So we're in the last month of the year. Appreciate you all for sticking around with me throughout it. And I know there was a road bump, obviously, in the beginning of the year with me, but we're going to be talking about how the Clippers can still salvage this season. Is there any hope? You know what I'm saying? We're 5-15 through 20 games. We're on a 5-game road trip that begins against the Miami Heat tonight. So I will be talking about that a little bit, our road trip a little bit, and also what we're going to need, to change things around. So on this road trip, we've got Miami tonight, and then on Wednesday, we've got the Hawks. Then we've got the Grizzlies on Friday, and that's the first half of a back-to-back because on Saturday, we're playing against the Timberwolves. And then because of the Cup, I believe, we're off for several days. So we don't play until we have 5 days off, basically, before we play against the Rockets on Thursday, December 11th. So that's a great opportunity for us to recoup, but hopefully we won't have lost. Because right now we're on a 4-game losing streak, so hopefully we're not on an 8-game losing streak at that point. We definitely got to get one of these games. Just from the outside looking in, I would think that Memphis on the road is our best bet. But before we talk about the road trip, let's just look at the current situation, right? We're 5-15. And Law Murray, our good friend from The Athletic, released a piece today that said that only 5 teams have started 5-15 or worse and made the playoffs since the field was expanded to 16 teams for the 83-84 season, a season in which Larry Bird's Boston Celtics beat the Lakers in the finals in 7 games. 5 teams since then, so it's not impossible. And one of those teams was a 4-16 New Orleans Pelicans team that, of course, beat us in the play-in game, a vlog that I have on my channel on Dime Dropper that I was at in 2022. So we're not out of it. And the play-in, which was our biggest enemy that season, might be the biggest thing that we need this season to turn things around. But it starts now. We got to be pretty much perfect. Not perfect, but we're going to have a stretch where, like in 2024, we went 26-5, or like last year, we went 18-3 to close the season. We're going to need something like that because 5-15, you're looking at a big hole right now. And as it stands, I know it's too early for standings watch, but we're 13th in the Western Conference. Now, granted, we're only half a game below the Dallas Mavericks, who are right above us. But we're 3 games back of the 10th place Portland Trailblazers. 3 games. And, I'm just going to tell you this right now. The Thunder ain't missing the playoffs outright. It looks like the Lakers are not going to be missing the playoffs outright. The Denver Nuggets are definitely not missing the playoffs outright. And unless Kevin Durant or Alperen Sengun go down, I think the Houston Rockets are going to be amongst that crew as well. And I would also put my money on the Timberwolves. So who gets that last spot? Well, it's probably I would put my money on Golden State, but San Antonio's obviously off to a pretty good start this season. And then the teams like, I don't know if I don't think we're going to be better than the Spurs this season, but Teams like Phoenix, Memphis, Portland, we can battle with those teams for those play-in spots, those final play-in spots 8, 9, and 10. I think at this point, 8, 9, and 10 is the only realistic avenue for us to sneak into this, to even make the playoffs. But I don't think we're out of it. It just needs to begin right now. That's what it has to happen. We need to begin right now. First 20 games, let's wash it away. Now it's time to step it up. But when you look at where we're at, it doesn't look like we're going to turn things around. It just doesn't, we don't feel like, it doesn't look like a good team, So, like, the sad part is that Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, I almost said Paul George. Kawhi Leonard's averaging 25 points a game through 10. 25, 5, and 3 to go along with 2 steals on 51, 43, 98 splits. So just looking at those numbers, and mind you, he's been on a minutes restriction for a lot of it, right? For a couple of games. Those are really good numbers. Those are all-star numbers. And James Harden's averaging 28, 6, and 9. 28, 6, and 9 on 44, 37, 91 splits. So statistically, when you look at our 2 best players, they're doing their part. However, the stats don't tell the full story. They could have been better in several games. So, like, for example, the Utah game that we came out, nobody was good at all. And that's one of our losses. When you look at the game against Golden State, Kawhi was not good. And James Harden in the second half was not good. You look at the game against Miami, James Harden turned the ball over 7 times in the second half of that game. Kawhi Leonard took some bad shots down the stretch. You know what I'm saying? So, and then these last 2 games, the minutes restriction really hurt us. Really hurt us. So, while Kawhi Leonard and James Harden have been very good, especially James Harden, because those last 2 wins, we're 2-13 in our last 15 games. Those 2 wins came against the Dallas Mavericks and the Charlotte Hornets on the road, where James Harden was legit virtuoso. So he's been great. He's been great, but we literally went 2-13 in the month of November. 2-13 in the month of November. And you can talk about the Derek injury. You can talk about Kawhi missing 10 games in this season. But we can only look forward now. That's in the past. We've had injuries. We've had, CP3 taken out of the rotation. Now we have Brook Lopez being taken out of the rotation. The reality is, a lot of these offseason signings have not hit. Most of them haven't. We've started to see a little bit better from John Collins of late, since he's been inserted into the starting lineup. But if we're just going to, break it down, the offseason signings have not hit, and we lost Norman Powell. And last season, in the first half of the season, we had Kevin Porter Jr., who was outplaying Chris Paul right now, straight up. And we also had Amir Coffey coming off the bench. And remember, we even had Terrence Mann in the beginning of the season to give us some more athleticism and liveliness, which definitely contributes to our porous transition defense. So it starts tonight. This 5-game road trip I already said the 7-game road trip was going to make or break us. It broke us. And now it's like we're in salvation mode. We've got to turn it around right here. So my answer is, yes, we can still make the playoffs. I definitely think we can still make the playoffs. We're not out of it, but it's going to be through the play-in. It's not going to be the top 6. Top 6 is completely out, in my opinion. Now, obviously, mathematically, we could still get the number 1 seed, but that's not happening. And the top 4 is definitely not happening. And I'm going to reiterate, I think top 6 is not happening either. So the best route is to just get into the play-in if we want to keep this team together, of course, if we're not, going the other route that I would prefer, which is to blow it sky high. But, realistically, knowing how Ballmer operates, they're not just going to give up. So we got to be perfect. But coming up, how can we make some tweaks? What has to change on the court for us to turn it around? Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. Bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes, It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least two player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. Intuit? Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, so the Clippers off to their worst start to a season since 2010-11, Blake Griffin's rookie year with a 5-15 start. There is absolutely no doubt that we've been the most disappointing team in basketball. There's no doubt about it. And I accept that, you know what I'm saying? We'll embrace that for now, and hopefully we're not anymore after this road trip, but we'll see. I mean, even if we won all 5 games, which is not going to happen, we would be 10-15, which would sound a lot better than 5-15, but let's talk about some changes that need to be made. So, as far as the starting lineup, I think everything's fine. However, Kawhi Leonard's minutes restriction has to come to an end. He tried to come in earlier last game and wasn't allowed to. We've missed our best player for half the season, and we were 2-8 in those games. And now he's on a minutes restriction, and we've lost every single game. Unleash the claw. That's the first step in returning. Because you might say, oh, he's doing enough. If you look at the stats, forget the stats. It's about the flow of the game when you watch it. And when your best player is being limited in crucial stretches of the game, that is not beneficial to your team winning. Point blank, end of story. And I'm not blaming Kawhi for this at all. It's obviously coming from the medical staff of either him or the team. That's the first step. Second step, James Harden has to take better care of the basketball. 4 turnovers on the season on average, but the last 2 games, he's had a total of 13. He needs to take better care of the basketball. And the reason why I say that is because besides the fact of the obvious that turnovers are no good, our transition defense is pathetic. I was watching some clips of us in transition, even last game, not even going back to like the first game on Synergy. It is so putrid. Even some of the misses from the other team, they're wide open because we're not talking. And it's not even new guys. It's like Zubats and Kawhi getting into miscommunications. And a lot of times it's Zoo. A lot of times it's Zoo having a hesitancy to pick up the ball or hesitancy to just find a body because it's not necessarily his man. You see, when teams get out in transition, and I tell this to my kids all the time, because one of the things I really get mad at my kids for saying, because I coach middle schoolers. I don't coach middle school and high school. I do not coach elementary. When they tell me in transition, when they're like, they don't stop the ball and they run to go to their man, I'm like, what the hell were you doing? And they go, it wasn't my man. And I literally lash out at them every time. And I'm like, dude, you are not in elementary school anymore. It's not about my man. It's about stopping the ball and then you telling someone to take your man. If it's a Zubats, when he's not finding his big man that he's guarding in transition, he just looks extremely hesitant to pick up a body, and it's really hurting us. And I watched the film, and it's not just Ivica Zubats. I'm not trying to single him out. Everyone is not talking. So it really comes down to how badly do you want this? How badly do you want to turn it around? Because defense, there's no way that just with the loss of Amir Coffey and Terrence Mann and Mo Bamba, we go from a top 3 defensive team in the NBA to 25th in defensive rating. It's impossible. So just with that, it's how badly do you want it? How hungry are we? Or are we checked out? That has to change. And then Ivica Zubats, the obvious. Can he return to that level? I'm starting to think with Ty Lue and James Harden to a lesser degree because James did contribute to him having the best season of his career last year. But I'm starting to think with Ty Lue and James Harden, he's not going to get the chance to thrive. Because we know Zoo is not an alpha personality. So he needs to be force-fed by whoever it is that's in charge of, who's getting shots, which is the coach and the point guard. Because Zoo's not the type of guy who's going to demand for the ball. And that's a knock on him, not on anyone else. That is a knock on him. I was watching Shaq talk about it with Ayton, and he was saying how many times he's running in transition, he's not ducking. And when he's ducking in for 1 second, he doesn't get the ball, he just leaves the key. It's like these bigs nowadays, because it's such a perimeter-oriented league and we prioritize spacing so much, they really do not try to get good post position. They don't try to maintain good post position, and they don't demand the ball. How many times do you see a big man getting a 3-second violation now to punish his teammates for not passing it to him? You never see it. You never see it. But back in the day, you used to see that. Obviously, it was a big man-oriented league more so. But again, if it's a Zubats, he needs to show some command. And he's not been showing any command all season long. Right now, he's averaging 16 and 11.5. 16 points, 11.5 rebounds, and he's shooting 60%. So you would think, oh, those are really solid stats. The eye test doesn't check out for me with Zoo right now. He's not playing as well as he was last season, especially in the second half of the season. Now, again, subconsciously, I think we have all increased our standard for Zoo, which is affecting this stuff to some degree. But he needs to be better. And then our role players, when it comes to knocking down open threes, I also want to speak about this. Let's look. I went to Synergy, and I want to read to you what our percentages on open threes for each guy. So this is what Synergy tracks as unguarded threes. Chris Dunn, 34%. Derrick Jones Jr., 39%, but he's injured. John Collins, same as Chris Dunn, 34%. Bogey, 36%. Kobe Brown, 36%. Kobe Sanders, 37.5%. CP3, 33% on 9 attempts. And again, you know why he has so few attempts? It's not just because he was taken out of the rotation. It's because I've said this for years on Dime Dropper, his release is slow. So he doesn't feel like it's an open shot when he's taking it. When he catches the ball and he winds up for his shot, teams are closing out and making up that ground. So it doesn't even feel open, and he's hesitant to even shoot it half the time. So that's why Chris Paul is not really that good off ball, and he doesn't cut or do anything of that nature. No screening, no nothing. So 33% for CP3 on 9 attempts. And then the last two are very interesting because it shocked me, these numbers. Nico Batum on open threes is shooting 49%. However, he's shooting 16% on contested threes. And Synergy is obviously the decider of what goes down as a contested three or as an uncontested three. But Nico does take those threes where a guy is basically still in his grill and he just catches it and he's just like, screw it, I'm going to shoot it. And here's the problem with Nico at this age. He cannot attack closeouts, or he's unwilling to. Teams will run him off the line and he just tries to like pump fake and sidestep and see if he can still get the three off. And he'll never drive in off of it. He'll never stop and pop for a pull-up mid-range. Like, even when he does attack a closeout, he's looking at pass and everybody knows it. So it limits him in that regard. So all I'll say is this for Nico. If you're not going to attack closeouts, yes, it's going to hinder our offense to some degree, but just keep it with the open threes. Just keep taking those open threes. Do not force it. Do not take those semi-contested ones because the percentage is not very good. And if you look at his percentage for the season, it averages out to 36%, which is not great. So he's got to take smarter shots. And then speaking of somebody else who has to take smarter shots, and I truly believe after seeing this statistic, he needs to be brought back into the rotation, is Brook Lopez. I know he's a cone on defense. I know he was like minus 24 against the Cavs. We need to ride with him. We signed him. It's the same thing I said with Chris Paul. We took him out of the rotation, and then we put him back in it. We got to ride with these guys and just take the L that we doubled down on old and slow, and it didn't work out. Because the reality is I'm going to take my L. I said that Chris Paul and Brook Lopez were going to help us. They're old, but they're upgrades over last season. I do think Brook Lopez is still an upgrade over Mo Bamba and Drew Eubanks, but it has taken some minutes away from Zoo, which isn't great. But Chris Paul has been a downgrade for sure, compared to Kevin Porter. And I was critical of Kevin Porter, but Chris Paul has been a downgrade for sure on both ends of the floor. it looks like we just added old and slow to a team that didn't need it. And I did mention that we needed less, we needed more young guys. We did not need more old and slow. But then I was just like, you know what though? They're still better. And I neglected, like, better than those guys. And I neglected what it would look like together and how much it would hurt our transition defense. So Brook Lopez is shooting 41% on open threes, which is great. But he's shooting 27% on contested threes, and he's shot more contested threes than open threes. And again, it's the same thing as Nico. Teams know that Brook Lopez wants to shoot threes, so they're going to run him off the line, and he doesn't have any, like, put it on the floor, attack, closeout game. So he'll just pump fake and try to sidestep for a three with his defender in the rearview mirror. So he needs to also stop taking contested threes. And you know the funniest stat I saw is that Brook Lopez is technically top 10 in points per possession on post-ups. So throwing him in the post is not the worst thing in the world based on the early season metrics. And honestly, on the eye test, we still get a decent shot in the post with him. I have more problems with Lopez when it comes to his defense and lack of rebounding. But my point is, some changes need to be made, and that is from the players. And then as far as, and I think Brook Lopez needs to get back in the rotation. So yeah, that's what has to happen. So Brook Lopez back in the rotation. CP3, he's got to be better as well. He's got to be better. And Nico and Lopez, if Lopez does get back in the rotation, they both need to be smarter with their shot selection. So that's all I have to say. And I don't know if Kobe Brown can play. I just don't know if he's ready for this. Kobe Sanders, I'm down for it. So in terms of our bench, and if we could get Bogey back, that would be really helpful. But he's going to be out against Miami. So what we've got in terms of off the bench in this game, for example, I think I got to go with Nico, CP3, Brook Lopez, Kobe Sanders. That's it. Those four guys. 9-man rotation. Ride it out. Because before the season, we had 11 guys. Now it's Beal out, so now we're down to 10. And then we take out Derek, and now we're down to 9. Take out Bogey, down to 8. You add Kobe Sanders, now we're at 9. So there we go. But coming up, going to be looking at this road trip and what we need to do to get some wins right here, given the opposition. I got to tell you something about FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Right. So the LA Clippers, we got to turn it around now, and I'll tell you some things that concern me about this Miami game. The Miami Heat this season are playing a very interesting style of basketball. They're pushing the pace a lot. And it's funny because they've been one of the slowest teams in the NBA for the last couple of years. But this year they have the fastest pace in the league. And what they're doing is, even on made buckets, they're pushing the ball with these big forwards, whether it be Bam or Jaime Jaquez or Pell Larson or Nikola Jovic. And then just getting downhill with space. No ball screen, just getting downhill, ramming into your chest, forcing you to collapse as a defense, and then you're in rotation. And the thing about them is, and this is the genius behind it, they don't have many guys like a James Harden, or like, for example, the beginning of the season, they did not have Tyler Hero. So not many guys that can create out of nothing. So by playing this fast pace, and playing this drive and kick, no screen, very similar to what we saw from Memphis before that coach got fired last season, where they didn't screen, they just kind of passed and moved, with the ball. They're doing that, and it's really making guys like Davion Mitchell, Simone Fontecchio, Pell Larson, and of course, who do we know on the Miami Heat that's not a great self-creator, but if you get him attacking closeouts, he's a beast. Our good old friend Norman Powell. So you couple all this in with the fact that we're the worst transition defense team that I've seen this season. We're in trouble tonight. Major trouble. So let's see how we respond to the fastest paced team in the NBA right now. Let's see. It's a huge test. And then I think there's a chance we can compete in the first half, but I'm looking at that second half. When Kawhi Leonard comes out of the game, when James Harden comes out of the game, can those staggered lineups hold up offensively? That's where we're going to need some help from Chris Paul. That's where we might need Brook Lopez. That's where we're going to need to dump it down to Zoo, and that's where we're really going to need our role players to knock down shots. And then as far as rebounding, that's been a real issue for us this season. We need to have a collective effort when it comes to boxing out. And that comes from not just Zoo, and he needs to do a better job, but guys like John Collins, who are averaging a career low in the rebounding department. I mean, I know he's been limited minutes wise at only 27 a game, but he's averaging 5 rebounds. He's got plenty of time to get that number up. So hopefully he will. And then, there's been a whole thing about us defending the three, right? Defending the three. Now, I think the whole concept with defending the three, by the way, we're 20th in offensive rating, 25th in defensive rating. But the whole concept with defending the three, it all starts with not being able to defend dribble penetration, because most of the threes that teams in the NBA take are open threes. About 90% of them are open threes. And that's not made up. I think somebody told me that a week ago. So giving up open threes is because you have to leave a shooter to help on somebody that got to the paint, right? In most cases. So defending the three is about stopping dribble penetration. It's not about stopping three-point shooters. Because the thing is, if a guy is so hot from three, like a Klay Thompson last game, and we don't help on a guy with a red carpet run to the basket, then what is everybody going to say? Because the way basketball is taught at every level is you leave three-point shooters to protect the rim. Meaning if somebody has a wide open layup or has a lane in the basket, you have to leave the shooter because the percentage of the three-pointer going in versus the layup is much lower. However, in the NBA, you have certain guys that open threes are like layups for them, and you have to play the math game and concede 2 instead of 3. However, we have not gone to a point this season where we've seen that in a game. And then if the fans that are saying we don't defend the 3, if somebody was to stay on a shooter and leave a guy open for a layup, would you say that, oh my God, what kind of defense was that? Because you have to pick your poison with today's spacing. That's what people don't understand. It's never been harder to guard teams given the rules, the space, and the skill sets players have around these things. So you got to understand what you're watching at the same time. So when it comes to defending the 3, I think our transition defense is very important. I think limiting second chance opportunities is extremely important. And then the pride in the half court. I know Harden's going to be a cone, and I know Chris Paul is going to be a cone. But I'm looking at those other 7 guys in the rotation. Can you guys play good defense? Can Chris Dunn stop gambling so much? Because you're paying for it. When we talk about defending the 3, a lot of times it's because Chris Dunn is gambling. Dude, forget it. You're not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and you're probably not going to make a defensive team, but let's keep you in the league by playing well. Because right now, Chris Dunn is hurting his stock because the Clippers aren't good. And before he got here, he was a journeyman. And I love Chris Dunn. I think he's awesome on and off the court. I met him, and he was such a cool guy. I'm always rooting for him. I have his jersey. But he's got to stop gambling so much, period. Because it's leaving guys open for 3, and we can't have our defense being compromised that way. But anyway, let's see. This is a huge road trip. Miami, I don't know if I predict a win on that one. We'll just take it one game at a time. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content, doing vlogs after every game. And I will be live after the game against the Miami Heat on my channel. And of course, you'll get a Locked On Clippers on Tuesday as well. Remember to subscribe to Locked On Clippers and hit the notification bell on YouTube to get us up to 8,000 subs before the end of 2025. I really think we can pull that off. We have to catch up to Locked On Thunder, guys. Come on. If we can't beat them in, we lost the trade, we can at least beat them in Locked On subscriber count. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.